Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In today's trip we're going to be exploring a dead mall in Connecticut known as Enfield Square. I made this trip in March of 2025 and this was my second visit to this mall, my first one being in fall of 2022. And I'm honestly surprised that this mall has been able to remain open in that time because it was very dead on that first visit and it's not doing any better on this one. There are currently plans underway to demolish this mall and redevelop the property, so this mall will likely be facing the wrecking ball within the next year. So here we are outside the vacant Macy's, and we can actually see some considerable water damage inside the building. Now, a few years ago, a large portion of the Macy's roof collapsed in and caused a massive safety issue. The owner of the mall ignored this issue and the township actually had to step in and fix it, which resulted in a $44,000 lien being placed against the property. So what we have at the Enfield Mall is a case of the mall's management neglecting the property to the point where it becomes a problem for the surrounding community. Look at the old handles on this door. You have to appreciate the little details like that when you see them. And let's look inside the Macy's. Looks like a spooky liminal space back rooms. And if we look over here, it looks like someone set off a fire extinguisher. We can see all the dust in the carpet there. Now, I don't know if this was a firefighter who did that, or if this was a vandal, but it's definitely in rough shape looking at this building. As I was walking up to the door, I saw this sign that said no filming or photography, so I had to turn back and go home. Just kidding, you know I'm not gonna play by society's rules like that. I'm going in blazing. I think the thing I love most about this particular mall is the tile work on the floors here. The different colors and the checkered pattern all throughout the mall, it just gives it this great vintage look. Even this old school trash can is really cool. Another thing I love about this mall is the slanted roof and the supports with that cool geometric design. And here we can see the closed Party City. Now this location had closed just a month before my visit. It was the result of this chain closing all of its stores nationwide. I guess there's just not much to throw a party about anymore in these days. But the sign's still brightly lit up. So this was formerly the entrance to the Macy's, and I just absolutely love the arched entryways and the geometric design all around this mall. It just has such a great old school look to it. Buildings nowadays, they just lack character, they lack interesting features, but this one, it has its own unique look, and it's a shame we're going to be losing it. Now this store had an interesting looking entrance. I wasn't sure what this used to be. Possibly a Suncoast, maybe some sort of record store, but we had that mirrored front, and as we look up in here, it had this cool steel lattice structure. It didn't look like any store that I could easily recognize, but it definitely looked like an old mall store from the 80s or 90s, so if you happen to know this one, let me know. Now let's take a look at the directory. This is a single floor mall, and the Macy's actually occupied two anchor spaces, one on the far end and one in the middle. And then the other anchor space was a Sears right next to the Cinemark, which is now closed. And all of these stores, they are all closed. Just the Target and I think 3 or 4 stores were open in this mall. As badly neglected as this mall is, at least someone was still watering the plants. And just look at that unique architecture on this roof here. I don't think I've ever seen a mall that looks quite like this one. Now this was some sort of CrossFit gym, which I think was closed at this point, and over here you can actually see a church in the mall. I don't know if that was still operating, but if a church opens up in your mall, it's a sign that things are pretty close to the end. So this mall opened up in 1971, and it was a thriving mall throughout the 70s and 80s, and there were several anchor changes throughout its history, but a major reason why this mall died is that in 2016 and 2017, the Sears and the Macy's closed, leaving only the Target as an operating anchor, and with the neglect from the owner, it's just been a downward spiral for this mall ever since then. Even the Auntie Anne's Pretzels is closed. How sad is that? And here we can see the Payless Shoe Source with the old school signage still hanging up. Very cool to see that. Here we have a comic book shop in what looks like an old GameStop. I'm guessing they're just leasing out this space until the time when the mall finally closes. And over here we have an old movie theater. Let's go take a closer look at that. This was a Cinemark and it closed in 2023. And just look at that beautiful carpet. I'm probably not supposed to be going back here. The whole time on this trip I was just kind of looking over my shoulder to make sure security wasn't around. But here we're going to take a look inside the old theater. And we can see up top there, the neon lights are still on, just burning away for no one to see. Makes me kind of sad. I really like how everything in this theater is just a bright primary color. Everything is just so white and boring now. Seeing something with all that color is really cool. Now, I made this trip in March, and the Christmas tree was still on display. I guess nobody decided to put it away. This is the saddest Christmas tree I have ever seen, just standing alone in an empty mall. This empty space is the former Sears. This Sears opened up in 1997 and it closed in 2016, and it's just been sitting here vacant ever since. This space was Ruby Tuesday, and it also closed in 2016, and it's a very old school looking Ruby Tuesdays. This is an old Finish Line, and it was being used by a local theater company. I have never seen an old mall store reused in such a way, but it's very interesting. So come on down to the Dead Mall and see a play in the old Finish Line. Take a peek here in this store and we can see some old Christmas decorations and mannequins and things like that. And here we have a closed GNC. I've been seeing GNCs closed in a lot of different places, so I have to wonder if the company's doing okay. And one thing I noticed was that the floor tiles were cracked and broken in a lot of different places. As cool as they are to look at, they weren't being very well taken care of. And this was a very bizarre sight. These kids' rides with the caution tape wrapped around them, almost looking like they were being held hostage or something. I'm guessing they were out of order and they didn't want anybody using them. And so over here is the Target, and it's really the only active business here at this mall, and it's the only thing that's going to remain after this mall is demolished. Look at this gumball machine. I just thought this was kind of cool. And I walked past this Vacant store and I saw all these paintings hanging up. I'm not sure if these were for sale or if this was like a gallery of some sort, but I thought they were really nice. And they had some really cool ones over here. We have the Predator. And over here we have Batman. And of course you can't have Batman without the Joker. Black Panther. And back here we have Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. Makes me so sad to know that another mall is going to be demolished. I'm really glad I was able to make a second trip to this mall before it faces the wrecking ball. As dead and as neglected as it is, the unique features of this mall just really make it something special. And here we can see an old Sears shopping cart inside this Vacant store. This section is the closest thing the mall has to a center court, and we're looking at the vacant Macy's up ahead of us. I have to say, I'm really impressed with how healthy this tree looks. I think these plants are the only thing that are being taken care of in this mall. I don't know what this store was, but look in the back at that partition with the waterfall on it. Very strange. Not sure what that would have been. I wonder what this kiosk used to be. May have been some kind of coffee counter or something like that. And here we have the Chamber of Commerce in an old EB Games. Definitely not a good sign for your town if that's where your Chamber of Commerce is. And inside this store, we can see all the decommissioned kiosks. So there was a nice tabletop gaming store here, and there were actually people in it. I think people were coming to the mall just to come to this store. And these stores that I always see in dead malls, these sports merchandise stores. This one was still alive and kicking. Look at this bizarre sticker machine. Is that Hannibal Lecter? And we have Poopsie, Baby Shart, all kinds of poop stickers. So during my visit, there was one security guard who was sitting at this desk here in the center of the mall, and I had to be very careful to make sure she didn't see me with my camera out. I had to wait for her to step away from that desk before I could come over here and film this section of the mall. You'll see that old Bath & Body Works in the background there. Look at the marble on this storefront, very old school. And just look at this goober right here. Ugh, can't stand that guy. I think this store sold cleaning gadgets, something like that, some kind of vacuum. And by some miracle, the GameStop was actually still open. I was very surprised to see that. Along this wall, you can just see all these remnants of old stores. The marble tile, the cool mirrored fronts, these display cases built into the wall. All just old school mall store features. And they had a lot of Hot Wheels on display. I guess Hot Wheels are coming back into fashion. I guess people are collecting them nowadays. I don't know, I'm kind of out of the loop on that one. I brought along my Fujifilm digital camera from the early 2000s. This is one of my favorite cameras to use, so let's see what the mall looks like with this one. So thank you for joining me on this trip to Enfield Square Mall. This is one of my favorite dead malls that I've been to, and I'm glad I was able to make a second trip before it's demolished completely. It just makes me so sad to know that another mall is going to be disappearing from the world, but I guess that's just the way things go nowadays. Anyway, thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.